In the 1970s, Iran's oil boom generated immense wealth, but almost all of it flowed directly into the hands of the country's monarch, the Shah, and his inner circle. The royal family lived in palaces furnished with gold telephones and imported art. Outside those palace walls, however, the majority of the Iranian working class struggled to make ends meet in a single-product economy. That stark inequality eventually fueled a massive populist uprising in 1979. Revolutionaries targeted the lifeblood of the regime, organizing strikes that brought the nation's oil production to a complete halt. Ayatollah Khomeini returned from exile to lead the new Islamic Republic. He preached a strict message of austerity, promising to dismantle the corrupt aristocracy and deliver justice to the working class. The core pledge of the revolution was clear: the nation's enormous oil reserves would finally serve the people, rather than a wealthy, untouchable few. Fast forward 4 decades, and the reality on the ground looks very different. Decades of heavy Western sanctions have suffocated the Iranian economy, leaving ordinary citizens right back where they started, struggling to survive. Yet, while the general public faces severe financial hardship, a deeply secretive class of regime-connected billionaires has quietly amassed massive fortunes. Iranians have a specific term for this untouchable tier of society, agazadeh, which translates to children of the elite. One of the most powerful members of this class is known to insiders only by a single letter, H. Operating a sprawling, illicit business empire right under the nose of Western authorities, H manages tens of billions of dollars in the global shadow economy. The regime that violently overthrew a corrupt royal family has quietly birthed its own billionaire class, using black market oil trades to hoard the country's wealth. To understand how this happened, look at Ali Shamkhani. He started out as the son of a poor bazaar merchant, but quickly climbed the ranks of the new regime to become a top commander in the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC. The IRGC is the elite military and political force tasked with protecting Iran's theocratic system. Ali eventually took control of Iran's navy, gaining direct authority over dozens of strategic ports and sea terminals in the Persian Gulf, the exact infrastructure required to smuggle goods and evade international sanctions. Over the years, Ali mastered the tricks of the black market. He then passed that operational playbook down to his son, Hossein Shamkhani. Hossein is the man known in the shadow economy as H. Armed with his father's connections, Hossein felt completely untouchable. He moved operations out of Iran and set up a web of seemingly legitimate shell companies, most notably the Malavus Group, right in the middle of Dubai's booming financial district. This generational handoff took the raw, military-run smuggling routes of the past and refined them into a highly sophisticated, multinational corporate syndicate trading freely on the open market. Hossein Shamkhani's empire relies on 3 main pillars. The first is the Dark Fleet, a sprawling, covert armada of aging ships used to move illicit crude oil around the world. This map shows how these ships use a variety of evasion tactics. They routinely turn off their digital transponders to vanish from global tracking systems. Then, they meet in the ocean for ship-to-ship transfers, blending Iranian oil and forging paperwork to rebrand it as Iraqi crude. The scale is massive. Investigators estimate that 10% of the entire global oil tanker fleet currently operates within this dark network. The second pillar of the empire is a high-stakes barter system. As the network grew, Hossein expanded his ambitions beyond petroleum and stepped directly into the illicit arms trade. To avoid transacting in US dollars, the network began shipping drone components and dual-use weapons technology across the Caspian Sea to Russia. In exchange, Russia paid them back in its own heavily sanctioned oil. The third and final pillar is financial laundering. You need Western banks to turn billions into tens of billions, and this network found a way to inject its proceeds straight into major European financial hubs. Using a hedge fund called Ocean Leonid, the syndicate leveraged its oil profits into massive bets on commodity markets. They operated out of offices in London and Geneva, backed by funding from some of the world's most prestigious financial institutions. Hossein Shamkhani engineered a system that successfully infected the legitimate global economy with illicit Iranian oil and arms money. Operating a shadow empire out of a major global hub like Dubai requires a high degree of arrogance. Eventually, that sheer scale and hubris drew the attention of international investigators. The unraveling started with a surprisingly minor incident in early 2022. A cargo ship tied to the Admiral Group, a company owned by Hossein Shamkhani, was detained in India for carrying false documents. This diagram shows the resulting forensic crackdown. Journalists and the U.S. Treasury Department began mapping the network, eventually uncovering more than 115 interconnected shell companies, frontmen, and tankers. The fallout hit fast. Authorities in the UK forced the Ocean Leonide hedge fund to shutter its London operations, and the U.S. Treasury officially named and sanctioned Hossein Shamkhani in one of its largest enforcement actions in years. Yet, the shadow economy is a relentless game of cat and mouse. The moment international authorities burn one shell company or seize one ship, the network immediately spins up 3 more to replace them. Meanwhile, back on the streets of modern Iran, the situation remains incredibly volatile. Citizens are currently engaged in some of the deadliest anti-government protests since the 1979 revolution. These protesters risk their lives daily against heavily armed security forces, fighting for basic economic survival. At the exact same time, the children of the regime's elite sit safely in foreign financial capitals, managing multi-billion-dollar empires. The historical irony is unavoidable. The working-class revolutionaries who bled to destroy the Shah's untouchable aristocracy ultimately replaced it with a new one. As long as the global shadow economy remains open for business, regimes like Iran's will have access to the endless billions they need to suppress their own people and cling to power.